mysterious humanoids carved by Native Americans found in Alabama. Within the dark depths of an Alabama cave, an awe-inspiring discovery was made. Human-like figures were carved on the ceiling, dating back at least 1,000 years, but scientists say it could very well be more. Archaeologists think that these strange humanoid depictions could be paintings of supernatural beings from another realm. The figures may symbolize beings of the supernatural world whose names have been misplaced or forgotten by the sands of time. The humanoids are tall and long, and although some of them resemble humans, something feels off about them. Those who have seen them claim that they get a strange sensation of the uncanny valley. The discovery of these ancient cave paintings is the largest such discovery in Northern America. The Journal of Antiquity, which wrote about these findings, claims that some of these figures exceed 6 feet in length. They have square shoulders and are dressed in detailed clothing adorning some sort of headgear. Furthermore, they are painted to look right at the person observing them. Such traits make many archaeologists believe that they are indeed non-human creatures. The cave is covered with ancient glyphs, carved all around its walls and ceiling. The glyphs are painted with mud, and researchers believe the findings could reveal much about the ancient traditions of the southeastern Native Americans that once lived there. Archaeologist Jan Simek has stated, "We know that Native Americans over a very wide area have certain ideas in their religious concepts that they share. They believe in a tiered universe. They believe that there were these spirit worlds all around them that permeate the natural world, even though you couldn't see them." Simek worked alongside Alvarez and Alan Kressler, two brilliant photographers. The discovery and capture of their images took many months for them to obtain. Alvarez and Alan Kressler struggled to take quality photographs of the painted ceiling because of how close it was to the ground. The angles were far from ideal. The first photographs of the glyphs taken by Alvarez were incredibly faint. It took them a long time, over a month, to gain the required footage for the task. According to Alvarez, "I feel like there are stories that get entrusted to me." That was the motivation behind doing all the work. The team gathered 16,000 images and videos in order to successfully map out the ceiling in all its glory. Alvarez claims that they knelt and stooped for hours on end every day, greatly exerting themselves physically to complete their project. Archaeologists have deemed these figures anthropomorphs. Simek claims that they potentially embody either human-like spirits from the mystical world or could just as well be representations of people wearing masks and costumes. It depends wholly upon what tribe resided in this cave all those centuries ago, their beliefs, culture, and relationship to the spirit realm. The depicted individuals on the cave ceiling and walls likely stem from the tribe's personal traditions. As such, until we find out more information about the ancient inhabitants of this cave, we will be unable to know for certain what these humanoids are supposed to symbolize. Simek believes they clearly represent a character or a set of characters that we've never seen before. University of South Alabama's Professor of Native American Studies, Philip Carr, has praised the research despite being uninvolved in the findings. However, he does question, are these figures related to the underworld? If so, what was the relationship of the people who drew them to those beings of the underworld? It's believed that the cave was inhabited somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 years ago. Simek explains that there is a significant lack of records when it comes to that far back in time. It's clear to archaeologists that these findings connect to modern Native American communities, which still adhere to their ancient traditions as much as they are able. These various beliefs and traditions are part of their cultures and heritage. The wonderful cultures of the people who drew these cave glyphs live on with their descendants. In Simek's own words, archaeology is not always about the dead. Mysterious sinkholes of Mount Baldy. The Mount Baldy, Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore is home to a rather great mystery. Whilst the public can enjoy the trails and the beachfront, this national park has seen some restrictions in somewhat recent years. The Mount Baldy Dunes closed, and have remained closed since some unusual activities were detected, we are still no closer to figuring out precisely what was going on. Mount Baldy is home to some peculiar sinkholes that seemingly appear and disappear, though we have no idea why. When geologist Erin Archaeologists first began to study this in 2013, she described it as what happens to be a new geological phenomenon. Of course, Archaeologists was not the only expert to search for answers out in these dunes. For months, plenty of experts took to the sands, searching for clues and hints. The holes that were forming typically measured to approximately a foot in diameter and last only a single day. Their fleeting, temporary nature was thanks to them refilling with sand, naturally within a day's time. It's unclear just how dangerous the holes in these dunes may be to visitors, and so the areas are restricted in the interest of public safety. Those who were researching, experts and investigators, took many efforts and approaches with ground-penetrating radar, specialized GPS devices, and other similar tools being employed to look beneath the surface and try to find the answers to what is going on. Unfortunately, it took tragedy to strike for this geological mystery to be uncovered. Archaeologists was in Mount Baldy, roughly midway through the July of 2013, carrying out unrelated research at the base of the dunes, when she heard frantic screams. A couple, understandably highly distressed, were pointing at the ground, saying their young 6-year-old son had been swallowed by the dunes. The rescue crews were able to get to the site, though the young boy was buried for 3 hours under 11 feet of sediment. The boy, Nathan Wosner, was in a coma but ultimately survived. Not only was this event highly traumatic for those involved, but it did not make much scientific geological sense. There should, in theory, be no holes within sand dunes, as the sand leaves no space for air. By that understanding, this event should not have been able to happen. Archaeologists said, "I couldn't help in the moment, so now I have to do what I can to learn why this is happening." Though the dunes still remain closed to the public, we are still not sure why and how these holes are appearing. One theory suggests that the holes are a result of decaying trees. The human activity and subsequent erosion is then pushing trees into the dunes, where they are buried, begin to rot, and then create the holes. This is still just a theory, however. The reports and questions surrounding the sinkholes first came in at a time when no other national parks were reporting similar scenarios. Even the term sinkhole is misleading, as it is certainly distinct from those we see more commonly. This might be a question that we never quite know the answer to, as we never quite uncover the truth behind this sinkhole phenomena. Ocean forests found twice the size of India. We are all familiar with the treetop canopies up above the surface, but what you might be less aware of are the underwater forest worlds, some of which are truly thriving. When we look below the surface, we see a great stretch of forests, made of vast depths of kelp and seaweed. More recently, we have uncovered that these underwater wonderlands are much bigger and span far further than we ever realized. Few of these underwater forests even have names. These wonderful forests have created beautiful homes for marine life, helping to protect many species lying under the sea. One of these underwater forests is the Great African Sea Forest, which sits just off the southern coastline of Africa, and another is the Great Southern Reef, following the south of Australia. These are just a couple of the sea forests which we have named, but so many more stretch beneath the surface of the oceans. It is this new research that has shed a light on just how impressive these kelp and seaweed worlds are, even revealing some are more than twice the size of India. However, these underwater sea forests do indeed have something in common with those up on the surface. They too are struggling as a result of climate change and marine heat waves. Unlocking the knowledge of more plants that could quickly grow and store carbon could be a huge way to help combat the climate crisis. They are formed mostly of seaweeds, which are one type of algae. Just like the plants up on the surface, they grow through photosynthesis, converting the sunlight into energy whilst also taking in and storing some carbon dioxide. As far as we are aware, seaweed is one of the fastest growing plants on the planet. However, we are not able to measure these spaces with satellites thanks to the depths that these forests reached down to. Instead, research primarily uses underwater records spanning scientific journals, reports, and other literature. Even without easy access to global records, we are still able to develop our understanding of these areas and the good they are doing for our planet. X-rays coming from Pluto. In school, everyone learned about the planets in our solar system, and though many people probably cannot recite them all by heart, they likely remember most of them. While Pluto is no longer considered a planet, there are still plenty of discoveries to be made. In fact, a team of researchers discovered that there are X-rays coming from Pluto. Kerry Leese, the leader of the study that discovered the X-ray emission, said, "We've just detected for the first time X-rays coming from an object in our Kuiper belt and learned that Pluto is interacting with the solar wind in an unexpected and energetic fashion." The team used data compiled by NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory. The observatory pointed at Pluto 4 times from February 2014 to August 2015 and detected low-energy photons of X-ray light. One question might be, could not Pluto's atmosphere simply be reflecting X-rays from the Sun? However, that is not the case. If these X-rays were bouncing off Pluto from the Sun, they would have a temperature of 7 million Kelvin, but they do not. More likely, the X-rays are a result of the way in which Pluto's atmosphere is interacting with solar winds. As the solar wind passes Pluto's atmosphere, Pluto's oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen could be interacting with some of the solar wind's photons, leading to the perceived X-ray emissions. This explanation is interesting for a few reasons. First, this discovery could change the way that scientists look at X-ray emissions in space. Chandra's findings support a new perspective on and explanation for celestial X-ray emissions that could possibly explain the presence of X-rays throughout our universe. Secondly, if the X-ray emissions are being caused by the interaction of the solar wind and particles from Pluto's atmosphere, its atmosphere could be deteriorating. Theoretically, as the solar wind pulls more and more particles from Pluto's atmosphere, it could be eating and wearing away at it. Although the true cause of the X-ray emissions may still be unknown, further research into Pluto and its surrounding atmosphere will tell us more. Such a discovery reminds us that if we look hard enough, every celestial body, whether they are a planet or not, can tell us about our universe. Hopefully this discovery and other ones like it will encourage scientists to keep their eye on Pluto and the rest of the Kuiper belt. But what do you make of these recent discoveries? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.